Hello friends. Ukrainian counter-offensive operation, situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, new draft of Ukrainian state budget for the next year, and many other topics in this video blog in this week. And at the front, Ukraine continues to fight for a strategic military initiative in the confrontation of mastery of which will allow to controlling of the course of the war. In any case, in almost all areas except of Donetsk areas, the armed forces of Ukraine forced the Russian army to go on the defensive. During the week, the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine near Kherson was reinforced by a more successful counteroffensive near the city of Balaklia in the Kharkiv direction, during which Ukraine recaptured at least 20 settlements, including the city itself, and created an operational threat to the entire Izyum-Slavic grouping of the Russian forces army, which could disrupt plans for capturing Donbas. Russian plans, of course. At the same time, it is possible that the counteroffensive near the city of Balaklia is aimed at further pulling apart the Russian reserves in order to prepare the main attack in the Zaporizhzhia or in Energodar direction. The tactical goal of Ukrainian counteroffensives is to eliminate the Russian brigade on the right bank of the Dnieper near the Kherson and cut off the Balaklia-Izyum ledge in the north. Since from the bridgehead in the area of Kherson, the Russian Federation can strike at Nikolaev city or Odessa or Kryvyi Rog or further to the central Ukraine. From the Balaklia-Izyum bridgehead, strikes are possible in the rear of Donbas front, in the back of Donbas front, in the direction of the city of Dnipro and the city of Kharkov. Strikes from this Kherson bridgehead and from the Belarus carry the threat of cutting Ukraine in half, and Balaklia-Izyum grouping pose a significant threat to the left bank part of armed forces of Ukraine. The development of the Ukrainian counteroffensive is also important for Ukraine in terms of the need to enter the winter period from a stronger political position. The team of President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzhny, needs to demonstrate their effectiveness both to internal public opinion and to Western partners. The success or failure of Ukrainians' counteroffensive largely determines the parameters of military and financial assistance to the country of Western partners in the following periods of time in the difficult winter and spring of 2023. The counteroffensive is also important in terms of public opinion. The lack of significant success in the counteroffensive, which was announced many times since May, can become an impetus for internal instability. Also, one of the important tasks of the Ukrainian counteroffensive is to disrupt the so-called referendum on the entry into the Russian Federation of the occupied territories. It is quite likely to be held in November 4, on the Day of National Unity of Russia. The situation at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant remains difficult, and the surrounding areas continue to be shelled. As a result of another shelling, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was again disconnected from the Ukrainian energy system. The International Atomic Energy Agency mission released a report calling to the immediate creation of the safe zone around the station. In general, the situation around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant remains a conflict switch which can lead the both an escalation of the conflict, its transition to a new phase, and its freezing. But on the basis of this crisis, a new nuclear negotiation track can be created. The situation around this power plant may become the subject of a new, after grain, agreements between Ukraine and Russian Federation. The head of the armed forces of Ukraine, Valery Zaluzhny, with collaboration with the National Deputy of Ukraine, Mikhail Zabrodsky from the European Solidarity Party, wrote an article, Prospects for Ensuring the Military Campaign in 2023, in which he makes it clear that the war in Ukraine can last more than 1 year. In general, Ukraine considers the deoccupation of Crimea as its strategic goal. But for an attack on Crimea, from 10 till 20 new infantry brigades manned and armed under the Lend-Lease program are needed. Ukraine also insists on the need to increase the range of weapons and seeks to obtain missile and artillery systems from Western partners that will allow strikes against Russian rare lines to comparable depth with Russian strikes against Ukrainian territory, up to 300 kilometers. Also, Western countries should provide the country with a nuclear umbrella in the event that the Russian Federation uses a tactical nuclear weapon. The very fact of publishing a policy article co-authored by opposition member of parliament in the Ukrainian political community is perceived as something strange or even like a mistake, and possibly is associated with the next meeting of the Ramstein group. But it is quite possible that this could also be an attempt by Valery Zaluzhny to make a position, very open position to the office of President of Ukraine. But it also looks like the Valery Zaluzhny should be close to the team of ex-president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko. In general, United States and allies continue to provide military and financial assistance to Ukraine. United States President Joe Biden approved a new $672 million military aid package for Ukraine. At the same time, they are developing the most effective sanctions mechanism which would strike the Russian Federation to a greater extent and European countries to a lesser extent. Following the fifth meeting of contact group on the defense of Ukraine in the Ramstein format, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called for increased support for Ukraine. NATO is also going to organize training according to the NSPA, NATO Procurement and Procurement Agency standards for Ukraine, Defense Procurement Agency. It was announced that in the next few weeks, the United States, in coordination with the NATO, will hold a regular session of the contact group and discuss the topic of achievements in the military-industrial complex for the future defense of Ukraine. New decisions are expected on the Russian oil, which they want to set a price selling from $40 to $70 per barrel. That's cheaper than in the market, which could force Russia to completely cut off supplies, and at least for a while it is possible that this shutdown of the Nord Stream may be a reaction of the Russian Federation to the impending restriction on Russian oil. On September 3rd, Gazprom completely stopped the Nord Stream, which had previously been under the repair. European Commission also proposed to limit the price of gas from Russia to 50 euros per megawatt hour, about 512 per 1,000 cubic meters, which is almost 5 times cheaper than on the stock exchange in Europe. Fossil fuels continue to replenish Russia's military budget due to the high prices. Russia earned 158 billion euros in revenue from fossil fuel exports in the first 6 months of the war. The draft state budget for 2024 is being prepared. It is already known that more than 1 trillion hryvnia next year will be directed to the security and defense sector. That is more than 3 times more than was laid down in the pre-war period. In 2022, near 320 billion hryvnias was originally planned. In general, state budget expenditures continue to increase. This entails both increase in external and internal debt and dependence on external assistance from the foreign donors. The total amount of financing of the state budget of the National Bank of Ukraine through the issue of the hryvnia has reached 300 billion hryvnias. It is likely that by the end of the year, the National Bank will not meet the emission plan at the level of 400 billion. The process of issuing the hryvnia leads to the inflation and its devaluation. The President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, raised the issue of terminating or not extending the grain deal, which was concluded for 120 days, which will expire in November 28th. The limited duration of the agreement gives Russia the opportunity to haggle over the terms of its potential extension. Upon the expiration of the term, but the Russian Federation may stop fulfilling its obligation, demanding an easing of the sanctions regime in relation to its exports. Turkey is the main beneficiary of the grain deal. Its export earns increasingly by 87%. At the same time, the throughput of Ukrainian ports remains very low. If grain export per month amount to 3 million tons, as expected in Ukraine. For the remaining 3 months, it will be possible to export only 9 million tons of agricultural products. To export the remaining 80 million tons in products, Ukraine needs to export 6 million tons per month. In Ukraine, there is an intensive campaign in the media regarding the need to conclude an agreement on the export of metals and metal ores. By analogy with the grain deal also is going on. Thank you, friends, for watching this video blog. Please put down your question. I'll be lucky to answer for all your clever questions. Peace for them, for all of us. Thank you. Bye-bye.